We've got Novak Djokovic versus Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final of the 2023 Australian Open. What a matchup. I predicted it from before the tournament, and it's come true, and I think it makes sense. These guys are both playing great tennis with these balls on this court, and I think it's going to be the best possible matchup for the final. We got Novak, who's just been rolling players, looking unstoppable with his leg wrap, and we've got Tsitsipas, who's played great tennis. He's a physical beast at 24 years old and is looking for his first major title, while Novak is looking for his 22nd, crazy, and his 10th Australian Open, also crazy. I think Djokovic is going to win. I think he's going to win and get his 22nd title, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. But before that, we're going to get into the matchup. We're going to look at how they came through their semifinal matchups, and I'm going to give the possible scenarios I see going down if each guy plays in a certain way. So that sounds like a lot to get into, doesn't it? It is. So let's get into it. Here's the slice. All right. Tonight, the women's final. Aryna Sabalenka versus Elena Rybakina. And Karina Mustafa broke it down on the slice. So if you have not watched that, go now. And after this video, go and click around here. I'll try and put it up here and watch her preview of the matchup. It's going to be a great match tonight. I can't wait for it. But today, this video is breaking down the men's final. And before we do that, I need to ask a favor of you. Subscribe to the channel. Helps us out, obviously. Like the video and check out the sponsors below. Go Sport, the official bag of the slice throughout the tournament. Treat yourself. And yeah, appreciate you guys being here throughout the fortnight. It's coming to an end. How are you doing with your sleep? I know I'm getting, I was slow getting out of bed this morning after the late night last night. That was rough, but not as rough as it was for Tommy Paul losing in 3 sets to Novak Djokovic. So let's break down these matchups or what happened before we get into the predictions and analysis of the Djokovic-Tsitsipas matchup. We'll get through the semifinals and how they got there. So Djokovic takes out Tommy Paul in an unexpected way, I would say. A lot of people, including myself, thought Tommy could bring more challenge to the table than I think even maybe Rublev or De Minaur, who he played in the rounds before Djokovic did. But at the end of the day, it was going to be a similar style of opponent where Djokovic was the bigger person and he can hit bigger, or at least he was hitting bigger than Tommy Paul. And he said so many things incredibly well that we've come to expect from Djokovic that it was a bit too much for Tommy. Although the first set did get, it was tricky. Novak was up 4-1, and then Tommy brought it back to 5-all. So it was fairly close first set, but some interesting remarks from Tommy Paul after the match where he talked about, what was surprising about playing Djokovic as they'd never played before. So Paul said, in quotes, "He made me play bad." Now, it's a fairly astute observation, I think. That's what Djokovic does to opponents. He makes them beat themselves. He makes them play bad. He ruins your game plan. Tommy literally said that. He said, "I wanted to serve a volley, didn't once." Tommy's, from what I saw in his post-match press conference, his game plan was basically to serve and volley, to mix it with slice, mix it up with the slice, take away rhythm, and to attack Djokovic's second serve. To me, that sounds like pretty like a smart game plan. That sounds like the type of things I would expect, is to don't get into long baseline rallies with Djokovic, obviously. And Tommy Paul's the type of player who has very high tennis IQ and has the skill to play a game style like that. He doesn't want to ball bash from the baseline, and he doesn't need to. So, but he kind of explained that, having this game plan, he's like, Djokovic did not allow me to execute my game plan at all. He thought the depth from Djokovic was surprising. And it's interesting. And if I was, in Australia, I would have asked Tommy, coming into this match, you probably knew that Djokovic was really good at keeping the ball deep and playing with depth. But was it surprising to actually see it and to play against it in person? And it sounds like it was for him. The depth was shocking. He didn't feel confident serving and volleying, because how could you when you are facing the best returner of all time? He said, Tommy actually said Djokovic's second serve was bigger than he thought it would be, and it was impressive. So he wasn't, at the beginning of the match, you could see Tommy standing way in on the second serve, and he actually, made some inroads there for sure. But he wasn't able to attack it all night long like he wanted to. And yeah, so that is the nuance and the brilliance of Novak Djokovic, being found out for the first time by a new opponent, obviously a guy who's first time in a slam semifinal. So as the draw kind of laid out, Djokovic has not had the toughest route to the final, and the opponents he's beaten, De Minaur, let's just go to the last three. De Minaur, Rublev, Paul, all smaller than him is something I've noticed, and we'll get back to in the matchup with Tsitsipas. Smaller and not really able to overpower him in any way. Rublev might hit a little bit bigger, but for this tournament, Djokovic has been hitting so big, especially on his forehand, so flat, and getting through these courts without any issue. It's insanely impressive, of course. So he takes out Tommy Paul, handles him. Amazing tournament for Tommy. Nothing but things to hang his hat on. That was a great result for him. Novak through to the final, as we expected. Stefanos beats Karen Khachanov in 4 sets. Karen could not handle Stefanos' serve. Like that's fairly not shocking. Stefanos has an amazing serve. We know this. And Karen, not the greatest returner. That's going to change for Stefanos, obviously, in the final. But Stefanos won 84% of his first serve points. To contrast that, Djokovic only won 75% of his first serve points against Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul's a better returner than Khachanov, and Djokovic will be a better returner than Khachanov as well. Obviously, in the final 4 sets, Stefanos, but I thought Stefanos hit his forehand huge. He was hitting that super well, and just moved flying around the court, playing amazing tennis. I think he had like 63 winners to 30 unforced errors. So just a great match from Stefanos, playing at an incredibly high level coming into the final. So that's that. So let's just take a look. Let's just take a better look at this old matchup here between Djokovic, going for the all-time greatest records in our sport, and Stefanos, one of the chosen one who a lot of people think, should have had a slam by now, and almost did when they played back at the French Open in 2021, obviously. The head-to-head now is 10-2 for Djokovic, and Djokovic has won the last 9 matches they've played. So I've been saying that's basically pigeon status. A pigeon is somebody you can just count on beating. It's like you play, I don't know, your friend in pickup basketball, and every single time you're going to go out there, you're going to win. It's fun. It's fun to play against those guys. I mean, not too much because then there's no challenge, but that's getting to the status. 9 matches lost in a row to when you guys are both, right in the apparently, trying to be in the top tier of the men's game. That's getting bad. That's getting really bad. And I think it's going to play into this match because Stefanos won 2 of their first 3 matches. So it's not like he can't beat him. And he has the game too. I do think that head-to-head kind of got a little bit out of hand at the end of last year. Stefanos had a weird year. And they played like 4 times, in the second half of the season kind of. So, or 3 times right at the end. So in a row, and Djokovic won all 3. So, it wouldn't be as bad, but it got exacerbated last year. But there's a reason for it. So if you're just looking at the strengths and weaknesses of each guy, let's just like list them out. So to me, the serve plus forehand for each guy is basically cancels each other out. It's equal to me. And I would say almost a slight edge to Tsitsipas. He has a bigger serve and not quite as accurate, but it can be. And, I think if you were just going to take in isolation the serve plus first forehand, I would lean slightly to Stefanos, even though they're both amazing. And Nole's has been, incredible this tournament as well. The only other thing I'd put in Stefanos' advantage is the physicality, right? He's younger, potentially can go longer, and Nole has the hamstring wrapped up. So, but there's no real reason given to us to see that Djokovic's physicality won't hold up. Obviously, throughout his career, he's been a physical beast. And his tournament, I guess he hasn't really been pushed. So I guess we'll see if this match does go 4 or 5 really long sets. Let's see. That'll be interesting. So I would put that in Stefanos' corner. But everything else, the backhand, for sure, is Djokovic has a huge advantage. So those backhand cross-court to cross-court rallies, Stefanos will be trying to get out of those as quick as possible, going over it, going up the line, switching up the pattern. But then Djokovic can just go back up the line with his forehand. We'll see how the Stefanos slices, but that's a bit of a liability and has been. So we'll see. The return, Djokovic has a massive advantage there, and it's going to really put pressure on the Stefanos serve. And we always see that a lot of the matches they've had in the last 6 months, they've been super close, and then gets to one service game where Djokovic puts the pressure on, and then he's able to just press and just snap and get the break. because of the return and how much pressure you can put on the Stefanos serve there. So he's just going to have an easier time breaking Stefanos, I think, than Djokovic, or than Stefanos will have breaking Djokovic. And that's a huge, that's about as important as it gets in a matchup. So prediction time. As I said in the title of this video, I believe Djokovic is going to win his 22nd slam, his 10th Australian Open, La Decima. And this is why he'll do it if he does. I think he'll find a way to rush Steph. I've said all tournament that Stefanos looks, because these balls are a little bit flatter and slower, it doesn't look like he's rushed at all. It looks like he has that extra second of time on a hard court that he loves, but then the hard court still acts like a hard court and he's able to hit through it. So because he's big, he can hit like that. So I think Djokovic rushes Steph, finds a way to do it, typically by standing on the baseline and fastballing. We've seen that strategy from Djokovic a lot against the younger, bigger hitters, against like Carlos last year, even though he lost the match. But I think against Stefanos, he's going to stick to the baseline and just go right at the Stefanos forehand, right at the backhand, get Stefanos feeling late, and just get him off of his game. That's the first thing that I can see happening. And then the second reason Djokovic will win is because of the mental scars. Like I said, 9 matches in a row. One, that's got to do something to you, including one of those, the 2 sets from behind victory over Stefanos in the final of the French Open 2021. I mean, if you're Stefanos and you're even up 2 sets to love, say, in this final, you still got to be doubting yourself then, because, you've lost it from there before against Djokovic when you were playing great on your favorite surface. This isn't even Stefanos' surface. Clay is the surface where Stefanos, might be more comfortable than even Djokovic. So I think the mental scars will play a big role. Hopefully not too big of a role for Stefanos, but those are the main reasons I see Djokovic winning, amongst other things. Like the backhand superiority is going to be huge. We'll see how Stefanos tries to navigate that. Just the general comfortability on this court. Djokovic has won it 9 times on this exact court. This is Stefanos' first final on this court. So there's just a ton of experience as well, is another reason why I believe Djokovic will win. Experience. If Tsitsipas was to cause the upset and win, obviously, to me, they're like, they're the 2 best players in this tournament. So it's not like a super underdog, but in the grand scheme of things, it kind of is, because of how much Djokovic has won compared to Steph. But if Steph was to cause an upset, I think he would do it by obviously pushing Novak back and hitting much bigger and being more athletic and just a bigger player than Djokovic other opponents have been, right? Like I said, de Minaur, Rublev, Tommy Paul, Djokovic has been able to out-hit and just, he's bigger than them. But Stefanos can out-hit Djokovic. He can hit just as big, and if not bigger, especially with the forehand. And he can do things to push Djokovic back and get him playing defense. So Stefanos, if he can come out really aggressive and just take the opportunities that come to him and just play without mental scars and be really aggressive, and he can get it into, a tug and pull with like baseline superiority, then it gets super interesting. And if he can keep that up, that's what he's going to have to do in order to upset Djokovic. But that's super hard to do, obviously. But I think he might have the ability to do it, because Djokovic started slow against Tommy Paul. But I just think the difference in level of hitting that Tsitsipas will bring compared to Djokovic's opponents so far could give him gaps at the beginning to exploit. And then if he gets the first set, interesting. If he gets the second set, obviously, super interesting. But Stefanos has just got to not let it go fast. If he gets down, he's got to make it a war. He's got to stop missing. He's got to be the player who misses less and make Djokovic hit through him. And then if he does, too good. But he's got to rely on his physicality. And Djokovic has got to rely on his superior comfortability on this court, being able to hit through the court flat and stay on the front foot. And I think he will do that. So I'm predicting Djokovic in 4. But we'll see. This is why we play the match. This is the matchup that we all wanted. I wanted from the beginning. I said my top 5 contenders. Do you guys remember me saying this? Top 5 contenders for the title. Djokovic 1, Stefanos 2. I put Stefanos ahead of Medvedev. Then I had Medvedev, then Fritz, then Felix. The other 3 lost. There's only 2 remaining. Djokovic and Steph. Who will win? You let me know down below. But that's my reasons why I think Djokovic will. It's going to be a great match. I'm hoping for an epic. Wouldn't we love it? I don't feel like there's been too many epics in this tournament so far, but it's been a great tournament as always. And yeah, like I said, the 2 best players are left in the final. Novak going for history, going for glory. in Stefanos, trying to really, if Stefanos, like both guys have got a lot on the line. Both guys have got a lot to lose. Like, let's put it that way. What's Djokovic got to lose? If he loses this, I think it'll be like the 5th or 6th player he's lost to in a major final. Where the other, Federer and Nadal have only lost to other big 3 members, plus one other guy one time. And Djokovic wants to get to 22, to eventually get to 23 to pass Nadal for the most majors. And he wants to get to a 10th Australian Open, obviously to give revenge to the entire country of Australia for kicking him out last year. But then Steph doesn't want to lose 10 matches in a row to Djokovic. Steph wants to get his first major badly. He's been missing that. He should have already had it. There's a million things to lose for both guys. And I haven't even talked about it. Whoever wins this is number 1 in the world again. So Djokovic, if he wins, he's back to number 1 in the world, and he, secures his spot in the world, saying, yeah, I am the number 1 player in the world still. You probably knew I was the number 1 player in the world last year when I was beating y'all, but now I'm proving it. And if Stefanos can cause the upset, beat Djokovic in the final to win his first ever major at Australia and become world number 1, he's got to dispel all the people who are doubting him, saying that Stefanos is no longer a tier 1 ATP player. If he wins this match, you better believe he's a tier 1 ATP player. He's the number 1 player in the world, and he'll be a major champion, which is huge. So a lot on the line for both guys. I expect nerves in the final, but I mainly hope and expect for a battle and some really, really good tennis to finish off the Australian Open down under. So that's the final preview. That's the last thing before the action gets started. Women's final tonight, men's final Saturday night in North America, Sunday evening in Australia. You got to love it. Anyways, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. We'll talk about it there. We'll see you guys all next time here on the show.